Did you hear what former Governor Tim Pawlenty is saying? Well, he has some harsh words for President Obama, calling him timid and slow when it comes to foreign policy. That's what the governor told the Council on Foreign Relations yesterday during his big foreign policy speech. But it isn't just President Obama he's critical of. He was tough and has tough words to the Republican competition for the Republican nomination for president. Joining us is Republican presidential contender, former Governor Tim Pawlenty. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, Greta.
Nice to see you, sir. Okay, no retreat from freedom's rise. That's the name of your speech, but calling the president timid. Tell me why you say that.
Well, the list is long, but let me give you just a few examples. When the Green Revolution began to unfold in Iran in 2009, and you had people asking where the United States stood, our president, our commander-in-chief, and leader of the free world stood mute because he didn't want to offend the mullahs because he thought he could sweet-talk them out of their nuclear ambitions. That's not the kind of strength and decisiveness we need. In Libya in early March, when the rebels had taken over most of the country, had the momentum geographically and tactically, instead of threatening or enacting the no-fly zone, he dithered for the better part of a month. And had we acted quickly, we could have pushed Gaddafi out, I think, without much fanfare. In fact, at that time, he was talking about leaving himself voluntarily, according to press reports. And in Syria now, we have a situation where even to this day, the president won't utter the words that Bashar al-Assad should go. He's a killer, he's a terrorist, he houses and enables terrorist organizations and now is killing his own people. And we have the president and his administration up until very recently holding him out as a possible reformer. Those are all examples, and there are many more, Greta, that show that this president, I think, is lacking in that type of decisiveness.
You know, in terms of Libya, I think that there is a lot of room in terms of you know, what we should do or shouldn't do. I think that's a tough call. The thing that struck me about Libya, though, is I remember his March 28th speech, and he said two things that I thought were troubling. One is he told him that we weren't going to put boots on the ground, Gaddafi, and the other was we weren't going to seek regime change, which I thought tipped our hand. And I was always curious why he tipped our hand as to, I mean, because to me it said to Gaddafi, you know, just hang in there. You know, you're okay if you hang in there. You know, we won't get you.
It's another example of this president subjugating our security interests to his political agenda. You saw it in his speech in Afghanistan. He didn't reference victory or success. He talked about ending the war there responsibly. Now, that's a nice word, but when America goes to war, America needs to win. And when you have David Petraeus and Admiral Mullen saying one more increment of time for this next increment of progress, which I think was reasonable and measured, the president, I think, should have taken that course. And as to Libya, you know, look at what he did. We've got now an indicted war criminal, somebody with American blood on his hands, and setting aside the debate whether we originally had a vital interest, we do now. You can't have a third-rate dictator thumb his nose at the United States and the free world after the president says he must go, and then survive all of this and come back and use terrorist acts against Europe or against us. Now he does need to go.
All right. Now, your aim isn't just at the president. I expect you to have policy differences, substantial ones with the president. You also take on the fellow contenders to the Republican nomination. In your speech, you say, in part, and parts of the Republican Party now seem to be trying to outbid the Democrats in appealing to isolationist sentiments. This is no time for uncertain leadership in either party. The stakes are simply too high, and the opportunity is simply too great. And you go on to say, what is wrong is for the Republican Party to shrink from the challenges of American leadership in the world. History repeatedly warns us that in the long run, weakness in foreign policy costs us and our children much more than we'll save in a budget line item. America already has one political party devoted to decline, retrenchment, and withdrawal. It does not need a second one. Is this your sort of breakaway effort from the other people, the other Republicans trying to get the nomination?
Well, Greta, unlike the president, who had times the withdrawal coincidentally to the election, and then when he announced the surge in the first place, announces the beginning of the withdrawal to satisfy the left flank of his party, this shouldn't be about partisan politics. What it should be about doing the right thing.
Oh, no, no, well, but I mean, the way you take, both those are direct hits on your Republican challengers. You didn't need to put them in this speech. Those were direct. I understand, you know, you're challenging the president because the president has to make these decisions on war and whatever. But these are sort of like, these are saying things about your challengers.
That's right. There's a big split in the Republican Party right now about whether we're going to move towards retrenchment, withdrawal, and isolationism. That's the voices that you hear on the other side of that debate, or my perspective and some others, which is America has an exceptional leadership role in the world as it relates to our own security, as it relates to the security interests of our allies, And in the wake of events like the Arab Spring, this is no time to shrink. We should step forward, and I'm gladly engaged that debate within the Republican Party and beyond.
Who are you talking, though? I mean, in terms of, is Senator Santorum someone you think that is doing this shrinking from challenges of American leadership and being an isolationist? Is former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, are they doing that? Are they isolationists?
Well, I can't speak to Senator Santorum's views, but if you listen to the debate recently, the debate on another news channel as well as some of the other news reports, clearly there are several candidates for president and several other leading voices in the party beyond that in Washington arguing for going further than the president in terms of an accelerated withdrawal, arguing that we have no business and he has no authority in Libya, arguing that we should do nothing in Syria, arguing that we should not have any role currently in Iraq and beyond. I have a very different view of that, and I'll be happy to debate that issue with anybody who has a different view.
And I should probably say, and we don't have time, but in your speech you talk about, you spend an awful lot of time about Israel, and you put yourself very strong with Israel, I should note. I don't want to leave that out of the discussion.
Well, I'll just say briefly, I know we're short on time, Greta, but this is a president who's repeatedly stuck his thumb in the eye of Israel. He's undermined their security. He's undermined our relationship with them. That is not in the best interest of our country or their country or our relationship. We should stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel, our best ally in that region and one of our best in the world. And he has provided daylight between us, and that's not in their best interest or ours.
Governor, thank you, sir.
Meaning the president. Okay,
I understand.
Greta,
Thank you, sir. And here's a reminder.